Today I submit to you that the 32nd Brigade Combat Team is the best National Guard brigade in the nation.
I have a hard time when my grandpa's gone because I can't see him or hear his voice for a very long time.
It is a true honor to be here with you today as a former Red Arrow soldier and to tell you how immensely proud all of us, from Colonel Meckel to General Sherine, all of us in the past who have worn the Red Arrow, we are extremely proud of you.
You don't know what's happening over there. You don't know if they're near big cities or anything. They tell you they go to Camp Victor, you don't know where that is.
You're well trained, you're well motivated, you are quite literally the best our nation has to offer. And now you are being asked to answer the call of your country once again. Some of you for the very first time, others again and again.
I kind of withdrew a lot from my friends, and because I didn't think they understood, because I was sad about my dad not being around, and all of them had their dads around.
This scene has taken place in cities and towns across Wisconsin. A loved one who serves in a reserve or National Guard unit has been called to active duty, many times in a foreign country facing hostile situations. Operation Military Kids, or OMK, is a program that was started to support children and families throughout deployment. In this program, we'll look at what families experience when faced with this situation, what changes take place, and what communities can do to support them. National Guard, Army, Navy, and Air Force Reserve units train year-round, but over the course of several weeks to a year, accountants, teachers, firefighters, and salespeople make the transition to active military.
I'm in a battalion that was activated in early 2006. And we served in Iraq for the better part of 2006. And I think what makes this particular conflict that we're in unique is that there's a very heavy reliance on using the reserve personnel in the military and the National Guard personnel. So there are many active duty personnel, of course, serving, but there are many family members who are reservists and National Guards folks that are being heavily impacted.
It's your turn.
My family is active in the community. We're members of 4-H, and I'm the general leader of the 4-H club that my children belong to. And in leaving for serving in Iraq, I had to give that opportunity up. My wife fortunately took over for me, and some of the other parents in our club took over for me while I was gone. The other thing that was, I guess, difficult as far as a connection in the community was just people not knowing literally that I was gone. Particularly, many of the teachers of our kids in school didn't know I was gone, and there was just so much to do before I left that I wasn't able to take care of as much as I would have liked to, as far as letting people know that I would be gone for an extended period of time. So that was a difficult and challenging part of being gone.
The effect that this deployment's had on my community and my job has been, well, as far as the community goes, my immediate community, meaning my family and my close circle of friends, I think it's had a major impact. I really was involved with the family, and I really do have a good close circle of friends, and I need that as much as they need it.
Every deployment affects a family on many levels. When loved ones are called to active duty, the effect on family members can be stressful. There are 3 phases of deployment. The first is pre-deployment, beginning with notification and continuing until the service member departs the home.
One of the things that I tried to do with my family before I left was to talk a little bit about the changing roles that everyone would have to undertake. Although the children had to take on more responsibilities that they didn't necessarily have before I left. The children's mother had to do more things that I was used to doing around the house. For my part, once we were overseas, one of the things that I found very difficult was not having an active hand in the day-to-day life of my family. It was very challenging not being able to have any sort of control really over what went on in the household. I had fairly regular contact with my family, which was very, very fortunate, but the sense that I really had no control over what was going on was very challenging. Well, from the military standpoint, we had quite a bit of paperwork to fill out. We had to make sure our physicals were up to date. Our dental and our medical readiness was where it was supposed to be. We were issued all new uniforms. We had wills to fill out and get taken care of. There was a great deal of paperwork that needed to be done there. Family meetings, debriefings that went on for quite some time prior to actually leaving. So we were actually busy for, I would say, nearly 2 months before we actually left home. From a family standpoint, as I mentioned, the changes in roles were quite a challenge. One of the household tasks I've typically done is the monthly bills. And knowing when they were due at odd times of the month was something that I had to show my wife. And so what I did is I came up with a schedule for 1 year and showed what time of each month each bill was due, and I put that on the refrigerator. And it was one way for us to make sure that a seemingly innocent household chore was taken care of.
When I first learned that my dad was going to Iraq, I wasn't really sure what to think. I was a little surprised because you hear about other people that are going, but then when it turns around and it's like your own dad, I didn't really know what to think.
When we were preparing for my dad to leave, I started doing laundry because he usually did the laundry, and so after he left, I would have to do it myself, so I started doing my clothes. I was pretty bummed out. I was sad, but then I was, like Eleanor said, I was kind of mad too, and I wasn't really sure, like, what the deal was, like, if he would have to be gone for more than he said he would be, and so I was kind of confused too.
Tell them you love them and spend lots of time with them before they go.
The second phase is the actual deployment, when the family member leaves for active duty. This phase may begin with grief and loss, but often transitions to increased confidence and control of the situation. Michelle Sanderson's husband Shane was called to active duty in Afghanistan. She experienced the stress of being a single parent with 4 small children.
I think the most challenging part of having my husband deployed for me has been the fact that he and I really did share things equally in the household, taking care of the kids and working, taking care of the home and finances. We really were equal partners in that. And one day, it's like I woke up and all of a sudden he was gone and that all fell to me. And I had been so used to having a partner that helped me do these things, and it was a little bit of a shock to realize that it was all on my plate now. But again, I think it's just trying to do the things that we always did and things that he did with us, making sure that doesn't change. And you know, we talk a lot about how he may not be there with us and doing these things with us right now, but remember how he did before and how he's going to again. But just really keeping up the family traditions that we had done before deployment. The biggest change that we've experienced is in the family dynamic, and that's that the kids really saw dad as dad and mom as mom, and depended on both parents and would go to both parents for certain things. And I think that now what I've seen happen is that they really see me as mom and dad, and that's been different for me because I'm used to having a parenting partner there, and the kids see me as everything and come to me for everything, and that's been a little different, and I'm waiting to see how that will shift or or how that will evolve when Shane returns.
You twist and pull.
With Emma, the older twin, I really have seen her try to take on adult roles, and I struggle with that because on one hand she does help me out, but also she's doing things that a 5-year-old shouldn't be doing. And so, you know, it's not her job to help take care of the baby or, you know, decide what to have for dinner. I just want her to be 5. But I've seen her really act very adult-like for someone that's in kindergarten. My other twin, Rhea, I have really seen her act out. We have dealt with a lot of aggression on her part. Cole, the 4-year-old, I think that he was so proud he was his daddy's big boy, and when Shane left, I saw a lot of regression in behaviors and more baby talk and things like that. And then Zach is he's just 8 months old, so they're really just not knowing Shane has been hard for me to deal with, that there hasn't been that connection.
Regardless of their age, children respond to their parents' deployment in unique ways and on different levels.
For the first few months, I didn't really want anything to do with anybody. I kind of isolated myself, and I mean, I didn't want my friends around, my family. I didn't care.
You get to learn about just trying to stay cool with what's going on, even if it might be upsetting to you.
We would, you know, take out the garbage, do the laundry, because those are all things that one other person makes a difference. When they're there, you know, things get done a little bit differently. So we all had to pick up those extra jobs. And our friends, they were helpful because they were just there to listen to what we had to say. Whenever we needed to talk to them, they were there for us.
Sometimes it's kind of sad that he doesn't get to be able to be with us and to do certain things, like go on vacations and stuff. But we're trying to make the best out of it.
And my friends, you know, they too didn't understand, but they did, you know, want to spend time with me, and they knew that it was important that, you know, on my birthday that they did spend time with me. And the same with my family, is we actually got a lot more tightly knit.
Kind of shift responsibility more to my mom and me, just because my sister's a little bit younger, so she doesn't quite get it all, but we're kind of responsible for getting everybody where they need to be, whether it be school, after school activities, stuff like that. And otherwise, we just try to help out around the house more, just so the burden's off my mom.
I was always constantly worried about him, worried that at any given moment that they'd call and they'd tell me that my dad died. And I was in constant fear of that.
Eventually I felt mad that he had to go and do it, that he'd take his job over his family and stuff, and that he would risk dying instead of like spending time with his 2 sons and his wife. And he'd miss our growing up, he missed birthdays, Christmas. It just wasn't the same without him.
Hey, you know what time it is here?
Despite the many obstacles, the majority of family members successfully manage the deployment phase and begin to look forward to the return of their loved one. Phase 3, post-deployment, begins when the service member returns. This phase is probably the most important for families. Children rushing to see their returning parent, wanting to share all that's happened during their time apart, is common. However, the post-deployment phase can also be challenging and even painful.
When my dad came back, I found that it was really hard for him to talk about what he had experienced. Everything was very light, and I always wondered, you know, what did you really do, Dad? Like, what, you know, you can tell me. And he couldn't really share it. He also had a very hard time finding a job, and is still having a hard time finding a job. So the financial situation in our family isn't the best. I think my brothers really struggled with having a relationship with him because he did keep so much inside. And you know, it was great to have him home, but at the same time, he was a different person.
It was really hard when my dad came back. He wasn't the same person he was before he left. I mean, it was like there was a stranger walking around my house, telling us what to do. It was really weird, and in some ways, I think it would have been easier if, it felt like it'd be easier if he didn't come back, because I was so used to him being gone that it was just really hard. It made me feel really guilty. I love my dad. It was just hard.
Tried to keep things the same as he always
After hearing what these families have experienced, it's evident that there's a need for community understanding, support, and involvement. People need to reach out on a personal level. Mary Stadola became involved with the Hero Pack project, a component of Operation Military Kids. These backpacks contain pens, notebooks, and other interesting things. They're a visible sign that people care and understand that kids serve too.
Well, as a first-time president, I attended a fall forum for the auxiliary up in the Dells, and I noticed this display of backpacks. I'm like, what is that? I gotta go find out. And when I went over there, there was a whole thing on supporting military families, of which our auxiliary had been started. And I just got excited about all the neat things we can be doing for kids who are right here that are missing their parents. We started spreading the word through churches. We had one church take it on, women's organizations, a few businesses, and we had presented it to a women's group, a women's church group. And one of the ladies there was a retired counselor from the Platteville School District and said, hey, I want you to take it to the counselor at the middle school and see what she'll do with it. And we proposed it, and she just took with it and ran. She just got all the kids organized. We have 189 done just from this community alone. The community is a very, very giving community, and we know we can do more outside of the Hero Packs. Our next step is to see how far we can take this, and then add on another component of support military families, and hopefully get it in other communities so that they can take it up on their own.
There are many ways that community members can support military families.
Communities can get involved in supporting the families in many ways, and often it's difficult for the families to even express that they need it. I think one important thing is meals. When my husband was in Iraq, I was so busy and overwhelmed with getting the kids around to all their activities, getting to school, and taking care of my own work as well. It didn't leave me much time for meals, so that would definitely be something that's always appreciated.
I would say if I could ask friends and family to support us, would probably just not worry about us and know that we're going to push through it, but just for the support, because that really helps.
And we really didn't have something like OMK. And to see these kids and to know that they can sit in a circle with kids that are their age and are in the same circumstance, to me that, it's awesome. And they're going to look back and they're going to say, I wasn't the only one, and I can get through this, and I can, I know that I'm going to be okay.
To get involved, discover resources and ideas, and learn more about Operation Military Kids in Wisconsin, please visit our website. Thank you.